Chapter 4176. Xiaoqing Otani for the teacher. I did my best. After the water witch master came back, he sighed. He didn't need to think about it and knew that Rangu and Qingxi, who have always had a good relationship with Datuer, would be frustrated. Master, you have done a good job. Suddenly, Rangu's gentle voice came into his ear. The water witch master looked up and saw Rangujing looking at him with a gentle smile. Yes, master, today you are awesome. You must know that it is the king of 9 calamities, the most recognized master in the universe. You were just equal to him just now. If it was not a little worse in the end, you would be better than you. He's already strong. Qingxi looked up, grinning with a particularly proud look. When the water witch dominated, he could not help feeling a little moved, and his original heavy mood became better. Don't talk nonsense. The king of Jiujia is just a palm of your hand, but the teacher is going all out. Can they be compared? Shui Wu rolled a glance at Qingxi and said with a smile. Ah, it's almost the same. Qingxi said with a smile. Jian Wushuang looked at this scene beside him. His heart warmed slightly. In the hundreds of thousands of years of his practice, he has been accustomed to killing and plundering, to being cold to human beings, and to being indifferent to the world. But he has rarely seen the purity and simplicity of the 3 masters and apprentices. After a while, the master of the water witch looked at Jian Wushuang side by side, and said apologetically, Child of the blood sword, in the ruins of Tai Luo, our masters and apprentices intend to leave, and we cannot protect you. Jian Wushuang heard a little bit of words and replied. Water witch master, then where are you going next? Back to our own star field, although the location is a bit remote, but fortunately, there are not many strong ones, and maybe it is more suitable for us. Shen Wu, the master of the water witch, replied. Jian Wushuang thought for a while, then nodded. For them, perhaps returning to the star field that belongs to them is indeed the best choice. Therefore, he did not block the exit. Although Jian Wushuang admits that, with his current strength, it is probably no problem to protect the 3 masters who control the water witch, but forcing them to stay here may not be a good thing for them. He respected the choice of the 3 apprentices. Bloodsword friend, then we have a chance to see you again. Bloodsword, goodbye, we are located in the Sanyang astral realm of the virtual wind star domain. If you have time, you can come to us. Bloodsword, you are not strong, so it is best to leave here as well. I don't want to see you die here like my big brother. Hey, I don't mean that you are going to die. In short, take care. The water witch dominates, Rangu and Qingxi, bid farewell to Jian Wushuang. For sure. Jian Wushuang nodded with a smile. Subsequently, the 3 left this step by step and walked towards the distance. For Sword Wushuang, he pulled down his hood, lowered his head, and walked step by step towards the king of 9 robbers, wearing a wide black robe, and pulled down his sword without a brim. He could not see his face at all. I can only see the chin. What is this little kid who dominates the 4th series? Well, this 4th level dominates, and I want to go to the king of 9 robbers to try it out. The 4th level dominate is a joke. In the sound of discussion, Jian Wushuang's expression was unrestrained, and he stood still in front of King Jiujia. You have to try it too. King Jiujia looked down at Xiang Jianwushuang, but his gaze was abrupt. The nearby Qingfeng Shenhou also frowned. In the Terra ruins, the ultimate is everywhere, and the number of the 5th level dominates is relatively less. As for the 4th level, it is even less rare. Now there is a 4th level master in front of him, and behind him is also carrying a sword, obviously a sword repair. This made Zhijia Wang instantly think of Jian Wushuang. But soon Jiujia Wang's heart denied this judgment, because the scent emanating from the black people in front of him had a great gap with Jian Wushuang. In the impression of King Jiujia, the breath of Jian Wushuang is calm and restrained, like a peerless magic sword hidden in the scabbard. However, the person in front of this black robe felt the ultimate darkness, the extreme cold, without the slightest emotion. The breath gap is so large that neither Jiujia Wang nor Qingfeng Shenhou recognized the sword Wushuang. The reason for this is that after the sword Wushu took control of the Terra Excalibur, the soul breath can be completely covered by the Terra Excalibur, and the extreme cold and dark breath that he now exudes is from the Terra Excalibur. With the breath. In this case, unless the king of Jiujia saw the appearance of Jian Wushuang, or it was as cold as frost, it could be recognized by Jian Wushuang's figure, or a simple manner. Otherwise now, the king of Julong and the prince of Qingfeng failed to recognize the sword unparalleled. They are only the black-robed man in front of them. They are also a fourth-level dominator, who is roaming in the ruins of Tai Luo. And they are still the kind who cannot control themselves. Novel. Calm no less than the king of 9 robbers. A fourth-ranked master ran over, and in many people's opinion, it was indeed beyond control. At the moment, sword unparalleled, covering his body under the black robe. After hearing the words of King Jiujia, he did not answer, but instead reached out and pulled out the magic sword behind him, and responded with his own actions. Sword Wuxia carried 2 Excalibur swords. The Excalibur sword now pulled out is red, and there is a faint sense of sharp cutting through the sky. It is precisely the transformation of Wu Ling Excalibur after being transformed by Tai Luo Jianling. The other sword was entwined with ancient vines, and the breath was unusual. Go ahead. A husky voice came from under the black robe, hiding his head and revealing his tail. He made a mystery, so I don't know the height of the sky. King Jiujia shook his head expressionlessly, and then raised his right hand, pressing down hard against the sword. Boom. Suddenly, the numerous palms of the defeated enemy suddenly condensed in the void, and immediately covered the sky, carrying the power of terror, and pressed down towards the sword. Jian Wushuang, like being frightened, still lowered his head, and did not mean half resistance. Suddenly, the ultimate master who watched countless times around saw this scene, and couldn't help laughing at it. This little guy, I guess I have never seen such a horrible hand. Ha ha ha, look, he's scared silly. Chapter 4177. In the void not far away, Wuxia, who had already gone far, dominated the 3, and felt the huge movement here, and could not help but glance back at will. As a result, the 3 of them were shocked at a glance. Mr. Master, that. Those who are picking up the king of 9 robbers, but the blood sword, Master Rangu wiped his eyes, and some dare not give up. The master of the water, which was equally astonished, nodding his head when he heard the words, and said, "It is indeed a little friend of the blood sword. What does this guy want to do?" Qingxi saw this, and could not help but stomp her feet with some worries. The lord of the water, which shook his head with a bitter smile and said, "Bloodsword friend, I want to come to see me defeated, and I can't join the king of the 9 robbers. Am not willing to try it." The 3 did not know for a moment whether the sword was uncontrollable, or the newborn calf was not afraid of the tiger. Simply, the 3 of them stopped completely, intending to stop and take a look first, in case the sword Wushuang accidentally was injured by this palm. They might be able to save the sword Wushuang. Rumble. The giant palm was pressed inch by inch, the void was twisted, and even the whole mountain trembled. The sword unparalleled still does not have the meaning of half hand. 300 feet. 100 feet. 50 feet. The giant palm was getting closer and closer to Jian Wushuang, and the violent wind was blowing in his black robe. Why is this person here to come to play with this seat? King Jiujia frowned, his eyes flashed with displeasure. If this continues, Jian Wushuang will be crushed to death by the power carried by that palm. 20 feet. This giant palm completely suppressed all the light above Jian Wushuang, just like a thick and heavy cloud covering him. This little guy is deliberately trying to die. What is he doing? Some of the ultimate masters of the spectator could not help but shake his head and wonder. In the distance, the 3 dominated by the water, which saw this scene even more tightly. Bloodsword boy, what does he want to do? The master of the water, which completely did not understand the sword unparalleled. Bloodsword, you guys run away, Qingxi said anxiously. And just when this giant palm was about to be pressed against Jian Wushuang's head, King Jiujia raised his arm, and planned to dissipate the power of this giant palm. The sword is unparalleled, and the 5 knuckle fingers finally clenched slowly. It's time to see how much I have improved in this millennium. Jian Wushuang's face covered by a huge hood gave a faint smile. Next moment, he suddenly waved his sword. Ha! Suddenly, a blood-colored swordman was cut out of the Wu weeping sword instantly, soaring into the sky. The sword was almost at an extreme, and everyone couldn't even see how it was cut out. Just feeling a flower in front of me, I saw this swordman, and it was already split on the giant palm that covered the sky surface. At this moment, the deities wept and the Buddha chanted. This swordman was like a lightning that tore the night, and split the entire giant palm into two. There is no obstacle at all, just like a knife-cut tofu. The giant palm that covers the sky and collapses directly. Alas! The sky returned to light. The sword unparalleled has withdrawn Wu Chong Excalibur. What? How is this possible? Suddenly, the sword of the 9 robbers was smashed by one sword. I am not mistaken. What just happened? The ultimate dominator of the spectators around was a pause, and it seemed that his head was a bit dead, and he did not respond. Immediately afterwards, they suddenly looked at Jian Wushuang. Their expressions were terrified. Countless ultimate dominators before, exhausted all over the palm of one's hand and couldn't get over, and were dominated by this 4th level. So a simple sword defeated. Countless people were stunned, their eyes were falling. In the distance, the water witches who stopped to watch dominate the 3, and their expressions are extremely wonderful. Brother Ran and Rangu, please give me a look and see if I have hallucinations. The girl King's mouth widened, and her pretty face was unbelievable. Rangu couldn't be better at this moment. His body was shaking, and he said unconsciously in his mouth, "How can he be a 4th level master? The master can't handle this palm, how can he take it?" The master of the water which had a look of expression, and the whole person stood there. This is still the humble attitude before, and smiled and said that he would let the blood sword boy who carried a ride. Then he laughed bitterly. I even said that I would let the blood sword lean on myself to join the king of the 9 robbers. I couldn't think of it. Shaking his head, the master of the water which sighed from the bottom of his heart. The afterlife is terrible. At the same time, in the eyes of the 9 calamity kings, he jumped 3 inches in his eyes. This sword meaning, he is too familiar. It was this sword. Once he defeated him in the trial field. But if this person in black is really that person shouldn't be so strong, right? And the smell from this black robe man is completely different. The thoughts of King Jizai flashed across his mind like lightning. He lowered his head and looked with a complex expression. In one look, Jian Wushuang raised his head, reached out and pushed down the wide hood on his head, gradually showing a fair and beautiful face. The king of 9 calamities, I haven't seen you in a long time. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly. The sword is unparalleled, it really is you. The king of Jiujia shook all over, and an incredible burst of eyes filled his eyes. Immediately after that, he struck his footsteps, and suddenly blasted out. Standing in front of Jianwu double-sided, he looked up and down with a constant look of indifferent expression. At this moment, some astonished asked, "Where did you go in the millennium, and how did your breath change?" "I'll talk about this later." Jian Wushuang shook his head with a smile, and then looked back, where a figure came quickly. Sword unparalleled. Qingfeng stepped forward, hugged Jian Wushuang with an open arm, and gave a strong hug, and laughed heartily. "Ha ha ha ha, Jian Wushuang. Seeing you are all right now, I finally feel relieved." At this moment, he was fully recovered from his divine power, and even seemed to have a little improvement. Released his arm. Qingfeng looked at Jian Wushuang and smiled. "Sword Wushuang, do you remember our agreement 1,000 years ago?" Jian Wushuang nodded when he heard the words and smiled back. "Where can I not remember? 1,000 years ago, the two were hunted down by Qing Shuzi, and when they fled separately, they agreed with each other. If they could not die, they would meet each other in the future, and they would celebrate with wine. For desktop users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from iRead Novel. Just the various treasures and source rocks in the universe are enough to boil many powerful people in the universe. Not to mention the amazing eternal magical powers, such as Taro Sword Code, and the Taro Sword of the famous universe. Browse and read. A better reading experience comes from iRead Novels. At the same time, in the central area of the Terra ruins, another plane. Compared with other places in the Tailua ruins, it is more lively here, and many of them eventually dominate the camp and form a lively scene. In the largest hall here, Inpeng dominated and talked with a smile of enthusiasm. Beside him there were two of them. The man on the left is wearing a purple gold crown, wearing a 9-clawed dragon suit, majestic, and has a light golden flame mark on the eyebrow. If the water which dominated here at this time, he would be able to recognize this person, who is now in the Terra ruins, ranking among the second camp of the Great Blessed God Kingdom, His Royal Highness 3. And the other person was wearing a red robe, with a tall figure, with his hair tied into a small braid and scattered on his back, sitting barefoot. And that was the King of Jinnan. Inpeng, you suddenly called me over. What do you want to do? Wang Jinnan frowned, and said impatiently. His Royal Highness the 3 emperors who worshipped the kingdom of God was also dominated by Inpeng, whose face was not so good. Not long ago, the two of them suddenly received a rumor dominated by Inpeng, asking them to come here and talk about what was important. Sure enough, the people in the Blood Temple did not come. Inpeng looked at the 3 seats he had prepared in advance, but now the one that was empty, shook his head and whispered to himself. Immediately, he looked sideways at King Jinnan and the 3 princes and smiled slightly. 2 of you have recently heard about King Jiuzai recruiting powerful men. Okay, the King of Jinnan raised his eyebrows. The King of Jiuzai recruited the strong, and did not deliberately conceal it. He naturally knew it. No, this is not a secret, Inpeng. Just say what you want to say. You know the king hates selling the most. The prince is a little calm and restless. There are strange things in it. Listen to me. Inpeng dominated his expression calmly, coughed, and slowly said, I know the King of 9 Calamities best, but he is always arrogant and ignorant of others. Therefore, he rarely goes with others, let alone mentions him. What recruits people? So once he recruits people, then he can be certain that something big is going to happen. Big event. Jinnan Wang Wenyin shrank his pupils. Next to the 3 princes of the great kingdom of God, there was a look of interest on his face. Yes. Inpeng nodded his head, and then continued. The King of 9 Calamities has been in the ultimate realm for dozens of chaos eras, causing his status in the Temple of Life to plummet. We do indeed need to think about it, knowing that he must be very anxious to break through the supreme realm. And there are nearly 100 ultimate dominators with cruel smiles on their faces, and their faces suddenly change rapidly, as if they had stepped on the brakes, and their steps were stagnant. For desktop users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from iRead Novel. Chapter 4185. Second more. Jian Wushuang is very clear. The reason why he can directly kill the master of Jiao Yan is not only because he has the power far beyond the master of Jiao Yan after casting the original universe. The most important thing is that his Wu Weeping Sword was instantly defeated. With the defense of Jiao Yan's body surface, his arcane warframe did not play any role. There is no arcane warframe defense, and there is a divine power in the air, and the sword Wushuang can be forcibly killed. Escape. At this time, the effect of life deterrence disappeared, and the armor guard suddenly grasped the life-saving straw and looked horribly toward the back. In a short time, the goddess guard swept out nearly 1,000 feet and was slightly relieved. Just when he turned his head and was ready to see if sword Wushuang caught up, before he turned his head completely, the light in the corner of his eye suddenly found that a sword like the moon was carrying thousands of thunderous might. Fiercely he hacked. This path is like the Swordsman of Jiuyue, which constantly enlarges in his pupils, then grows bigger and bigger, and finally do not. The armor guard screamed hysterically, and his figure was directly run over by the swordman. In terms of strength, he was not as good as Horn Inflammation, and his body protection ability was weaker than that of Horn Inflammation. Almost instantly, God Armor Wei was also beheaded on the spot, and the swordman, after beheading and killing the Jiawei, again split nearly 500 feet forward, before the power gradually weakened and finally disappeared. In the distance, Jian Wushuang retracted his gaze indifferently, and as he stepped, his figure turned into a black streamer, and he hurried toward the battlefield of King Jujia. In the ruins of Tailuo, on top of Jiuzhong Cloud, King of the Ninth Calamity, get hold of me. King of the Nine Calamities. If you give up your resistance and take a vow of obsession and be a slave of the king, I will not be able to spare you. King of Nine Calamities, 3 million years ago, when you destroyed my entire family, did you ever think of today? King of the Nine Robbers, surrender the supreme divine pill. Our blood temple promises you that we will never interfere in the matter between you. Indifferent laughter continued to flow, and King Jujia stepped into the void, his expression gloomy to the extreme. King Zhenan, dominated by Yinpeng, 3 princes of the great kingdom of God, and 9 blood envoys in the blood temple. Among the 12 ultimate masters, there is a super existence, forming a trend of encircling and strangling, trapping him. Not only that, Yinpeng was obviously prepared to dominate them, and a strong law circle was also arranged around it. This law circle also exerted a great suppression on the strength of Jiu Jiawang. Even though King Jukai's combat strength is against the sky, among the 12 super powerfuls who are surrounded by the pharaohs, they have only the power of parry and no fight back. If he keeps dragging on like this, the King of Nine Kings understands that even if he is perfect in life and has great divine power, he may also be consumed here. You want this seat to die, you can, but this seat has to see who is the first to give this seat back. The King of Jiuzai Wang's eyes slowly moved across the faces of Zhennan Wang and others. His face hooked. There was a sneer of Mori Han. In the face of the threat from the crowd, instead of having any fear in his heart, he felt that the cavity in his body was silent and cold for dozens of chaos period blood, and began to boil. I don't know how many years, since King Jiulong stepped into the ultimate realm, no one has caused him more than half a sense of threat, not to mention the immediate crisis of life and death. Negative stubborn resistance. A senseless struggle. Chapter 4186. The first is more. Damn. There was a flash of anger in the eyes of King Jiujia. The 9 sickles carried a very horrifying poison. If he did not avoid it, he was afraid that even if he killed Yinpeng, he would die first. Under these 9 sickles, in the eyes of Jiu Jiawang's eyes, the eyes flashed quickly, and there was a hesitation on his face. Finally, he decided to avoid the sharp edge and look for another opportunity. The King of Nine Robbers swept away, avoiding to the side. Puff! However, it's too late. A sickle was severely slashed on his back. Although he could not tear his arcane war frame, the poisonous poison contained in the sickle had already penetrated into the god's body of King Jiulong. King Jiulong was almost beaten by this. A split directly from the top of 9 clouds. Taking a deep breath, Jiu Jiawang stabilized his figure and looked back at the 9 expressionless angels, his expression gloomy to the extreme. The 9 blood envoys would be weaker than anyone else present if they were singled out. But these 9 people joined forces to form an impeccable formation. Coupled with the terrifying and venomous the 9-handle evil sickle can be described as giving Jiu Jia the king a headache. It was the appearance of these 9 blood envoys that instantly changed the situation on the scene, making Jiu Jia Wang Kong have the ability to fight against the sky, but was suppressed by death. The King of 9 Robbers was poisoned by our sickle, and took this opportunity to kill him. A blood murmur made indifference. His voice did not contain any feelings, like the cold wind of Juyo. At the next moment, the 9 blood envoys turned into 9 ghosts, and came towards the 9 kings. King Zhenan, the 3 princes, and Yinpeng dominated the 3 of them. They nodded inconsistently, and the same body of power broke out to kill King Jiulong. The King of 9 Robbers, you will surely die today. Yinpeng, the leader of Li Peng, grinned and turned out 36 handles of Jin Go at the same time, turning toward the King of 9 Robbers. In these 36 golden geese, the power of each handle is better than in the past. At the sharp blade, there is a purple-black venom dripping. Even when King Jiujia saw the 12 people who had been attacked at the same time, he couldn't help his face sinking to the extreme, and his heart continued to sink. But at this moment, a sword rainbow that runs through the world, across the sun and the moon, suddenly rushes from the west. On this sword rainbow, a domineering and sharp sword rises up against the sky, dragging a long tail flame, as if splitting the sky into two halves. It is gorgeous and extremely brilliant. This sword rainbow directly breaks through the clouds on the top of 9 clouds. And it's coming. Suddenly, no matter it was the king of 9 calamities, or the people who came from the rush, all stopped their hands and narrowed their eyes to look at this sword rainbow. Well, who is this person? This kendo breath has never been seen in the ruins. What does this person want to do? Is it the enemy of King 9 Calamity, and wants to take a chance when you see this? Inpeng dominated each other, and looked at each other. The next moment, the Jianhong stopped, the dazzling radiance gradually dissipated, and one of the young men with black hair appeared. The young man was cold, wearing a wide hood and hunting in black. He was holding a red sword in his hand, and a simple sword box on his back. It's him. A 4th level dominate? Inpeng, Zhennan King, and others looked at each other and frowned. Who is this person? The 3 princes had never seen Jian Wushuang, and asked aside. Inpeng replied, You do indeed know the 3 princes. When we and the king of 9 calamities fought in Fengyang Gorge 1,000 years ago, it was this person who stopped Qing Shuzi, and finally Qing Shuzi chased him off. Unexpectedly, he came back safely, but King Suzu's whereabouts are still unknown. I just saw him on the plane, but I didn't care. He didn't expect this person to come here. In the eyes of Inpeng's dominator, there was a touch of dissatisfaction. In his opinion, Jian Wushuang should never appear here. What are God Jiwei doing? Even a 4th level master can't stop it? The master Inpeng shook his head, but he still didn't care. In his opinion, although the sword warrior's combat power is good, in front of him in the situation, it is difficult for him to change anything. King Jiujia and Jian Wushuang stood side by side, one with white hair, and one with black hair. Jian Wushuang, why are you here? Jiu Jiawang looked at Jian Wushuang sideways, and asked without expression. Jian Wushuang poked his lips and sneered. I won't come, shall I watch you die? Wang Juyan felt warm in his heart, and was quite emotional. He did not expect to save him in the end, but he was in the temple of life, and his rival soared unparalleled. However, King Jiujia gave a heavy snorting voice and said rudely, Who is King Jiujian? Do you still need your help? Jian Wushuang heard a smile, and heard that King Jiujia has always been arrogant. In other words, it is death to face his life and suffer. He naturally will not care about Jiujian. King 9 calamities, not much to say, a total of 12, you kill 6, I kill 6, how? Jian Wushuang smiled slightly. 9 calamity. Wang Wenyan laughed loudly. Only feeling the arrogance in his heart, he laughed heartily. Sword unparalleled, can you do it? Okay. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and sneered. Well, wait and see. When the words landed, Jian Man's Huang flashed in his eyes, and he immediately rushed towards the 3 princes. King of 9 robbers, this person, leave it to me. It is good. King Jiujia nodded, and his steps were swept away toward the envoy. The 9 envoys had already made him annoyed. Now he just wants to kill, and then fast. The 3 princes looked at the sword Wushuang who rushed at him, and made a soft noise in his mouth. This little guy wants to kill me? The 3rd prince chuckled a little. Although he didn't know why Jian Wushuang's first target was why he didn't care at all. He was dominated by the 4th grade. No matter how strong he could be, act recklessly. The 3 princes shook their heads, disregarding the dragon-printed jade seal, and patted the palm of the sword directly. Boom! This palm did not use his 30% strength, but it was enough to kill the ordinary ultimate master, not to mention the 4th level master such as Jian Wushuang. In his opinion, this palm is enough to completely kill Jian Wushuang. Idiot! Jian Wushuang gave a sneer, and the Wu weapon sword in his hand gently flung away, and a cold sword light was about to open the palm. Then, Jian Wushuang leapt along, and appeared instantly on the top of the 3 princes. Says, dead, call out. A blood moon sword on, suddenly cut off along the Wu weeping sword. This sword is enough to destroy the 100,000 mountains. What? The 3 princes were shocked, and had no time to evade, and had to hurry up the dragon-printed jade seal to resist. Chapter 4187. Second more. Ha! A crisp sound of golden iron and iron rang, and a long series of golden sparks splattered. Then I saw this dragon print jade, with 3 princes, and shot the whole person backwards. He fell directly to the ground and fell savagely. On the ground a large pit exploded. Jianwu's eyes flashed coldly. Without hesitation, his body blasted out like a shell, and continued to kill the 3 princes on the ground. How can that be? The 3 princes stood up from the ground, glanced down at the dragon-textured jade seal, and saw a faint black mouth on the dragon-textured jade seal, where it was chopped off by Wu Wei's Excalibur. How could the attack power of that sword be so strong? How high is the rank? The 3 princes were horrified. You must know that this dragon-textured jade seal is a treasure of top-notch rule, and it turned out to be cut by the weeping sword of Wu Wu. This means that the Wu crying Excalibur is higher than the dragon jade seal. Huh! Without waiting for him to think, Jian Wushuang has once again killed with a sword. The 3 princes had a dignified expression, and there was no trace of contempt in their hearts. And his voice was low and he shouted, "Big devotion to God, mountains and rivers." Boom! Suddenly, an overbearing atmosphere reached the extreme, centering on the 3 princes bursting out. Under the 3 princes, there appeared a huge throne. The 3 princes sat on the throne, like the emperor in charge of thousands of miles, and the endless domineering surged out. The dragon-shaped jade seal rose and rose in the wind. In just a few breaths, it turned into a majestic mountain, repressing towards the sword unparalleled. Jian Wushuang looked up at this majestic mountain. His eyes flashed the hunting war. These 3 princes are those who have been the strongest enemy ever in history. Even if he has become more powerful today, he doesn't dare to be half-minded. Sword up, Jian Wushuang whispered. And then, the black hair in his hood flew up, and the turbulent wind, floating clouds, floating dust and gravel, all turned into the purest energy in the world. Like the return of Baichuan, it came from all directions, and finally gathered in his hands, turning into a silver sword rainbow up to 500 feet long. This sword was realized by Yu Jianwushuang during the dueling battle with the King of 9 Calamities in the trial ground. Yu Jianwushuang formed a prototype in Wudao Hanoi, and forced the Qing Shuzi to retreat in the ruins of Tai Luo. This sword is nameless, but it is Jian Wushuang's first killing sword. This sword has not yet been perfected, but as Jian Wushuang swallowed the 9-leaf sword grass in the 2nd floor of the Terra ruins, Kendo's repairs skyrocketed in 1,000 days, and after breaking through the 3rd source of Kendo's origin, it finally matured. This sword has a name today. Its name is Chop Star. Whether it is the Wu weapon sword with a large arc in the middle class of the sword without hands, or his deepening understanding of the origin of Kendo, it has made Jian Wushuang's sword slashing. The power of the sword has changed dramatically compared to before. The sword has no petals, is holding a 500 feet of silver sword rainbow, looks up at the dragon-shaped jade seal that turns into a mountain, takes a deep breath, looks like a note, and spit out 2 words. Choose the star. Suddenly, Jian Wushuang raised his arm, and the rich and mysterious laws of the universe, infused with the endless majestic power, instilled in the Wu weeping sword, and severely cut down towards the mountain. At this moment, an unparalleled icy cold swordsmanship rushed up into the sky, and directly shattered the thick clouds of 10 feet. Immediately after, Wu weeping sword trembled hundreds of millions of times instantly, and sounds like the crying of the gods, and the whispering of the Buddha, and the demon uttered from Wu weeping. The silver sword rainbow finally broke on the mountain, turned into a dragon-shaped jade seal. Ding 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 ding. Suddenly, the silver sword rainbow and the dragon-pattern jade seal collided thousands of times in succession, making an unpleasant sound of gold-iron collision. The mountains turned into dragon jade seals, and the silver sword rainbow refused to give up each other. They kept apart and bumped together. The 3 princes looked up to this scene, as if they were close to the enemy. Jian Wushuang also narrowed his eyes and did not dare to relax in the slightest expression. Click, 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 click. Gradually, the silver sword rainbow of 500 feet long, the sword light was constantly worn away and dim, and the mountains that turned into dragon-line jade seals were covered with cracks like spider webs. Ha! With the explosion, the power of the sword of Zhanxing was completely obliterated, and that mountain made a warning and shot back into the hands of the three princes. His legs made two huge gullies on the ground. He looked down at the dragon-shaped jade seal in his hands, and his eyes were filled with astonishment. I saw that there were hundreds of fine cracks on that dragon-patterned jade seal. The sword was unparalleled, and I couldn't help but sigh slightly. The power of this sword, even if it was blocked by dozens of ultimate masters, can be killed by metal. Beheaded the three princes. These three princes are indeed the invincible existence of the ultimate master, and they have a background of worshipping the kingdom of God, and their strength is really real. I'm not an opponent. At this moment, the three princes had a thought that seemed to him absurd. Blessed with the three princes of the kingdom of God, the invincible existence of the ultimate dominator is not the opponent of the fourth level right now? The three princes couldn't believe it, but when he looked at the beginning to the end, there was no sword Wuxia stepping back, and he had to recognize this reality. Who the are you? Jian Wuxia. Jian Wuxia glanced back at him. In the eyes of the three princes, the eyes flickered and he said, "Sword unparalleled? Well, how about a deal between us?" Oh. Jian Wuxia raised an eyebrow and smiled. What deal? After hearing the words, the three princes took a deep breath, and seemed to make a decision and replied, "The sword is unparalleled, the king of 9 calamities. My highness can withdraw," and we stopped there. How? The three princes had already resigned. In his opinion, it was easy for them to kill the king of the 9 calamities before, so he didn't mind stepping on it and taking a cup of tea. But in front of him, the sword had unparalleled strength. It is very likely that he can be left here. So how could he be willing to confess his honorable life here for a triumphant king? Jian Wuxia heard the words and suddenly laughed. The proposal of the three princes is indeed good. He and Jiu Jia Wang, and even Jian Wuxia have no resentment. If he can withdraw now, it is indeed a good thing for Jiu Jia and Jian Wuxia. But unfortunately, two more arrived today. Chapter 4188. The first is more. No. Jian Wuxia shook his head. The three princes frowned and asked, why? Jian Wuxia replied with a faint smile. Three princes, it seems you still don't understand why I was the first one to find you. Huh? The three princes squinted his eyes. He didn't expect this to go quickly. I don't know why Jian Wuxia first came to him. Speaking of them, they met for the first time. Even if Jian Wuxia was looking for an opponent, he shouldn't be found. Jian Wuxia also revealed the answer for him. Do you remember the water which dominates? Jian Wuxia said lightly. The water which dominates. The three princes frowned upon hearing the words. There were too many masters he had ever seen. Except for those invincible masters, who were famous in the universe, he didn't really have any impression. It wasn't until a long time later that he seemed to remember. As if he had just come to the ruins of Tailuo soon. There was a 5th-level master, who accidentally blocked his way, and was shot dead with his palm. Before this person was dying, he seemed to say that his master was the master of the water witch. Afterwards, it seems that he also heard that the master of the water, which came to him, and wanted a fairness. He is the three princes who worship the kingdom of God. How can he meet such a character? The result of the process was naturally that he had Jiao Yin under his hands to dominate others, and blasted out 3 masters and apprentices who were masters of water witches. You dominate that water witch. The three princes narrowed his eyes. Good. Jian Wuxia nodded calmly. Ha 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 ha, joke. It's just a joke, Jian Wuxia. You are going to kill me for a cricket ant. The three princes suddenly burst out laughing, and the waist of laughter was bent. He almost felt that this was the biggest joke in his life. What identity does the water witch dominate? A waste who do not know which remote corner of the universe dominates. And who is he? His Royal Highness, the 3 kingdoms of the universe, honorable status, admired by thousands. Just because he shot and killed an apprentice dominated by the water witch, Jian Wuxia even came to kill him? Jian Wuxia looked calmly at the 3 princes who smiled like crazy, and slowly said, You see them like ants. Do you think they are? What are you talking about? Do you dare to see me as an ant? The three princes bowed his head sharply, looking at Xiang Jianwushuang. His face was extremely cold. Jian Wushuang did not answer him, but slowly let go of the Wu weapon sword in his hand, and said, "When the light disappears, in the deepest darkness, that deprives all power. Its name, forever night." Alas, there was no earth-shattering explosion, nor was there an explosion that made the world eclipsed. When the sentence of Jian Wushuang was finished, it was like dropping a small stone in the calm water, making ripples ripple. Wu Cry Excalibur, starting from the tip of the sword, disappeared inch by inch. Sword Unparalleled slowly closed his eyes. Wu Weeping Sword, suspended in front of Jian Wushuang, starting from the tip of the sword, turned inch by inch into nothingness. It wasn't broken, but like energy transformed into heaven and earth, until the entire sword disappeared completely and silently. The three princes did not know why, but apparently nothing happened. But they suddenly felt a terrible threat. This threat is far stronger than any time he has come. His forehead began to swell with fine cold sweat, and a sense of anxiety appeared in his heart. He could not help but yell in the direction of the king of Jiuzhai and the king of Zhennan, and shouted, "Yinpeng, come and help me." On the battlefield of King Nine Calamities, Yinpeng dominated his brow, and the three princes were also the invincible ultimate masters, who were quite famous in the universe. How could a fourth-ranked master do not solve it? Even to the point of needing help? Waste. Yinpeng dominated the curse, but still turned his head toward Zhennan King and said, "Master Wang, the three princes seem to be in trouble, and I ask you to help." Zhennan Wang nodded his head, stared at Jian Wushuang in the distance, and pulled a cruel smile at the corner of his mouth. Fortunately, he didn't want to face the king of Nine Calamities, so he might as well start with the fourth-ranked kid. "His Royal Highness, my king is here to help you." The Zhennan yelled at the three princes, then stepped on them, and instantly turned into a godlike man, and appeared next to the three princes. "Your Highness, are you all right?" King Zhennan glanced at him. "It's okay," the third prince replied. His expression did not change slightly with the arrival of Zhennan King. "Master, this kid is weird." The third prince took a deep breath, and he could feel that the threat and anxiety like the back of the Mang did not decrease with the arrival of King Zhennan. "Eccentric." After hearing this, King Zhennan said with a smile, "His Royal Highness, this fourth-order master of this district can go weird? Are you worried?" After that, the Zhennan dynasty stepped into the void in the distance, and looked at the sword Wushuang with closed eyes, suddenly as if he felt something, and said quietly, "Well, I haven't noticed before. The kid's kendo the breath is actually the same as the one who saw and killed Xingdo and Tiansu at the beginning. Is it impossible?" Xingdo and Tiansu said that the person with the big secret is this guy. "Also, my king has to look. This is a big secret in Weird Man. What's so unusual about it?" After speaking, the king of Zhennan sneered, stretched out his huge hand, and grabbed sword Wushuang. "Pretend to be gods and ghosts. Come here to the king." Boom. Not yet waiting for Zhennan King to grasp Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, but suddenly opened his eyes. In his eyes there were no eye pupils, no white eyes, and nothing but darkness. A trace of thick black mist spread from under Jian's feet, rendering the entire void into a black, and then slowly rushed towards the Zhennan King and the three princes. The next moment Jian Wushuang said softly, "To private night." Alas, as the stones fell into the water, ripples rippled, the world in front of the king of the south, and the three princes suddenly changed. Between the entire world, as if only the two of them were left in their eyes, time began to accelerate. Everything around them was gradually fading, and the world seemed to have a thick haze. And this is just the beginning. The colors of the world kept deepening, and gradually, from gray to dark again, and then to black, and black continued to deepen until it was as dark as ink, and there was no light in their eyes. King Zhennan and the three princes are like falling into a dark and eternal kingdom. In this kingdom, there is no light, no vitality, no hope. Only the scent of depression, dullness, silence, coldness, and stiffness began to entangle them. King Zhennan and the three princes, under this complex atmosphere, suddenly felt a strong uneasiness in their hearts. Mando sword, Mando sword. Chapter 4189. Second more. Pretend to be a ghost. King Jinan snorted, not so good-looking, and whispered, "Big Sun God will break this king. Call out." The two wheels behind him suddenly burst into the sky like two raging fires, smashing into a dark place. However, on this weekday, the magnificent sun wheel of the gods is like an ignition star, and it is thrown into the ocean, and even the waves have not risen, and they gradually disappear. There is an invisible power that deprives the power of the great sun god wheel. And then in Jinnan King's furious eyes, these two ranks are the god wheel of the supreme rule of supreme, and the rank gradually starts to decline. Top grade, medium grade, low grade. In just a few short breaths, these two chakras turned from the top-class rule to treasure, and became dim and dull mortal artifacts. Finally, they continued to decompose, shatter, and turn into nothingness. This, King Jinnan and the three princes looked at each other, and there was a disbelief in their eyes. This weird power can make the rule of treasure fall into a mortal weapon silently, and the two of them are unheard of. They hadn't waited for them to think about it, and what happened immediately made them suddenly startled. They were full of violent divine power, disappearing at a very fast speed. As if there is a pair of big hands invisible, they are depriving them of everything. Do not. The faces of King Jinnan and the three princes changed greatly, and they no longer dared to hide their whole cards. Forbidden surgery, blood day. Big secret law, imperial seal. I saw a huge scarlet fireball, like the sun, exuding a terrible and hot atmosphere, rising from a void. In the void, there appeared a huge throne that struck the ancient starry sky. On this huge throne, there was a figure wearing a 9-claw golden dragon suit, and a crown with a dragon pattern. He could not see his appearance, and was extremely vague. This is the strongest whole card of Jinnan King and three princes. However, everything is useless. In this absolute darkness, all light will disappear. That round of day only persisted for less than 10 breaths. The flame extinguished, turned into the purest divine energy, and was swallowed by darkness. The tall and majestic figure of the emperor was even more vulnerable. After being attached to the darkness, he silently collapsed and disappeared. The two kings of Jinnan and the three princes were gradually depleted, and their tall and burly bodies quickly dried up, as if they had been drained of flesh and blood. If you look at it from the outside at this time, you will find that there is a huge black ball in the sky, a dark black mist of swords and swords, densely intertwined, like a large net. Jian Wushuang and Jinnan King and the three princes were wrapped in them. Time passed slowly on the side of King Zhilong's battlefield. As the three princes and Jinnan King were pulled away by the sword unparalleled, the pressure of Zhilong King disappeared, and not only was there no sign of being suppressed, it seemed to be a potential after the ascension of the dragon from heaven. After turning on the talented supernatural power, Devil's Evolution, the combat power soared tenfold, and the palms were shot like a storm. With their own strength, they pressed 9 envoys in Impeng, dominate the bombardment. The two guys of Jinnan King and the three princes, as well as the god Jiwei, are they really doing any ghosts? Impeng dominated his complexion to the extreme. Originally, he expected that they would be responsible for dragging King Jiucai. After the armor guards packed up the power of His Majesty the King of 9 Calamities, they turned around and killed the King of the 9 Kings of Calamity together. But now not only the batch of nearly 100 ultimate masters of the god Jiwei, but there is no news at all. The three princes who are unparalleled to the enemy sword, and the Jinnan King who supports the three princes, all have nothing to do. In the eyes of Impeng's dominated eyes, the eyes flash quickly, and while working with Jiuzun Mingming to resist the offensive of King Jiujie, he looked toward Jinnan King, the three princes and Sword Wushuang. I saw that in the void, Jinnan King, the three princes, and Jian Wushuang all disappeared, leaving a large round black ball. There was no breath coming from the three in this black ball. The situation has changed. Maybe I have to leave again this time. Impeng dominated his thoughts and turned sharply. He has always been a cautious person, otherwise he would not have been in the family. The man who escaped from birth. The situation in front of him had completely deviated from his expected trajectory, so there was a slight resignation in his mind. The King of Nine Kings also paid attention to the movement on the side of Jian Wushuang. He glanced down at the huge black ball like a spider's web where Jian Wushuang was, and he couldn't help raising his brows. Is this a thought of the kingdom of God? The Zhijiawang murmured to himself quite doubtfully. Others may not see anything, but as a person who has stepped into the supreme threshold, he can naturally see that the black ball of Jian Wushuang clearly opened up a world that belongs to Jian Wushuang himself. No, although this is very similar to Yiming God Kingdom, but it is not Yiming God Kingdom. King Zhujia shook his head. As the comprehension of Yiming God Kingdom, he naturally understands Yiming God Kingdom. For a moment, the kingdom of God opened up a separate world with heaven and earth, mountains, rivers, and rivers. But the black ball space of Jian Wushuang is full of coldness, silence, and vitality. This breath made him feel a little scared. In just 1,000 years, I didn't think this guy had grown to this point. King Zhujia shook his head. A smile appeared on his face. How can I make him compare? Next moment, I missed the kingdom of God. Get up, rumble. Suddenly, the world was eclipsed, and an unprecedentedly powerful breath, with the center of Jiujia Wang as the center of the explosion. This breath is completely different from the breath of the previous king of the Nine Kings, and it is full of a feeling of Shuanao Avenue. In this breath, the void in the ruins of Tai Luo seems to be unbearable, and it emits a caca-like glass-breaking sound. Immediately, the space around the trial site began to change. Centered on King Zhujia, a huge and magnificent force directly extended. This power is enough to suffocate and tremble anyone who lives there. This is the thought of the kingdom of God that only the Supreme can realize. No, run away. Yinpeng's face suddenly changed. At this moment, even the 9 bloodless envoys, who were always expressionless, shrank their pupils and the voice sank. King Nine Calamities, let me wait to leave. Our blood temple will never look for you again. All future it doesn't matter. They have already seen it. Today it is determined that it will not be possible to take down the King of Nine Robbers, unless at this moment King Zhennan and the 3 princes can kill the sword without double-clicking to help. Chapter 4190. The first is more. Leave. You don't study the blood temple? Ha 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 ha. Who are you when I am the King of Nine Calamities? Are you the waste you can handle? It's a joke. Saying that, Zhou Jiawang's expression evoked a sigh of sorrow. Blood God, this seat tells you that you don't want to leave today. In other days, this seat will even set foot on the blood temple. Bold, presumptuous. Suddenly, the 9 blood angers were so angry that they scolded one after another. Come in all. King Zhujia sneered, moving his hands to the middle, and at that moment, the thought of the kingdom of God violently fired more than 10 black chains, dominating the volume of the 9 blood envoys in Yinpeng, and immediately dragged into the realm of the kingdom of thought. As time slowly passed, the most fierce and spectacular battle in the ruins of Tai Luo, at this time, became extremely quiet. After about half a column incense time, click click click, the kingdom of the 9 kings of God separated and shattered piece by piece, and immediately followed, they saw 6 figures radiating from the realm of the kingdom of God. These 6 people are impressively dominated by the King of 9 Calamities in Yinpeng, as well as 4 envoys. Just within half a column of incense, under the repression of the kingdom of God, Jiu Jiawang slayed and killed 5 blood gods in succession. The remaining Yinpeng dominates and the 5 blood puppets, and also wolves to the extreme. Yinpeng dominates the 36 handles of Jingge, leaving only 12. The 5 blood puppets, the black robe, are broken and expose 5 ugly and scary faces covered with blood. Escape! Yinpeng's face was so ugly that he almost died in the hands of King Nine Calves just now. If it wasn't for his immediate decision, he would have blasted 24 handles of Gugu. I'm afraid he would be unlucky with those 5. The same blood died in the hands of King Nine Calamities. This made him completely without courage to fight again. I saw him wave a red poisonous mist, and his body swept away towards a place. Want to escape again this time? The king of 9 robbers already hated Yin Peng as the dominator. But he was an assassin who could not help but frustrate him. How could he let him escape? As soon as King Jiujia stepped on, and was about to chase towards the lord of Yin Peng, he saw the 4 blood envoys, killing him with venomous eyes, blocking his way. Act recklessly. The king of Jiujia immediately became furious. The blood made him almost like a plaster on dog skin. Yin Peng dominated while rushing forward. While looking back, he noticed this scene, and his heart was overjoyed. I'm sure I won't die, Yin Peng. He smiled smugly. However, he did not notice that the direction he was rushing to was exactly where the sword was unparalleled. There Jian Wushuang slowly opened his eyes. With the opening of Jian Wushuang's eyes, the darkness in his eyes gradually faded away, and the light was restored again. The ball was broken up piece by piece, and then turned into a black mist sword gas at first, rushing from all directions towards Jian Wushuang. The 2 kings of Jinnan and the 3 princes have turned into 2 dead bodies. Their eyes were wide, their mouths opened, their faces full of horror, as if they had experienced something terrible before they died. With the sword of Yongyi, Jian Wushuang directly killed the ultimate masters of 2 invincible levels. Once this is spread, it will be enough to make the whole universe horrify it. The black mist like a snake condensed before the sword was double-sided, and finally turned into a blood-red Wu weeping sword. Jian Wushuang's face was a little pale, and he grasped the pancake of Wu crying Excalibur, panting slightly. Suddenly, his pale face seemed to have been supplied with something, and a faint red appeared. I use this sword too reluctantly, but the power is really extraordinary. The sword of Wushuang could not help but smile a little. Yongyi. He only realized a little fur. Then kill King Jinnan and the 3 princes. If he really realizes that Yongyi is complete, then what? Jian Wushuang thought. While turning slowly, he looked towards King Jiujia. I saw a figure, with his head buried, and rushed towards him. Ha! Yin Peng? Jian Wushuang saw this, with a playful smile on his face. Well, this guy of Jijiawang is really terrifying. It seems that he wants revenge. I have to wait until I break the Supreme. Yin Peng dominated his head, rushing forward while thinking about the next step. There is definitely no way to stay at the Terra ruins. The first thing to do now is to leave the Terra ruins, and then find a remote corner in the universe, and stay for 100,000 years and 80,000 years. After that, I went out again to look for opportunities to get revenge. This time, I have already won the ticket. If it were not for the 2 idiots of the 3 princes and the king of Jinnan, even a 4th-level master can't clean it up. Why would I fall to the road now? Where is it? Thinking of this, Yin Peng's eyes flashed a look of resentment. Originally, this time, he already felt that he had a winning ticket. According to his plan, even if King 9 Calamity is not dead, it is estimated that there is only 1 breath left. As a result, the guy who dominated the 4th grade did not know where to take it. What came out turned out to be the one who reversed the whole fighting situation. Just as he lowered his head and thought, the next time he came out to seek revenge, when he wanted to put Jian Wushuang on the list of kills, suddenly, he seemed to hit him, and he stopped suddenly. Huh? He looked up in doubt. Yin Peng is Overlord, hello. Before he looked up completely, a cold voice suddenly sounded in his ear. The sword looked at Yin Peng, who was sent to him in front of him, without expression on both sides, without expression. It's you. Yin Peng was dominated by surprise, then first glanced back at the Jiu Jiawang who was being tangled by 4 blood gods, then turned to look at Jian Wushuang and sneered. Okay, before I left, I still could let me meet you again. Let's die. Boom! The master of Yinping took out a Jingge and shot fiercely at Jian Wushuang's head. Idiot! Jian Wushuang shook his head, and even Wu Wu's Excalibur was too lazy to use it, reaching out and grabbing at Yin Peng. The strength of Yinpeng's dominance is even worse than that of Jinnan King and others. Coupled with the battle with the King of 9 Calamities, his power is almost exhausted. How can he be a sword rival? In a short period of time, Yin Peng was dominated by the sword holding his neck with no expression on both sides, holding it in his hand like a chick, and letting his hands and feet kick in the air, hissing and roaring. Chapter 4191. Second more. You let go of me. Boy, I told you to let go of me. Yinpeng shouted with blushing shame. He was the ultimate dominator, and was actually carried forward by Jian Wushuang like a chick, which was a shame to him. Ha! Responding to him was a slap by Jian Wushuang. Be quiet. Boy, let go of me, and I will give you all the treasures I collected in Tailua ruins. How about it? Yinpeng dominated with a laugh, and tried to soften. Ha! Still slap. I said please be quiet. If you dare to make a noise again, believe it or not, I will now send you to see your men and the king of the town of Nan? Jian Wushuang glanced at him, and said coldly. Why, what? Yinpeng dominated Wen Yin for a moment, and did not respond. Immediately, he reacted suddenly. His body was like an ice cellar, and a chill ran straight from the spine to the top of his head. Could the Jiawei and others supported by the long-term future have died in the hands of this person? Could the king of the south and the three princes? He turned around suddenly, and saw that Jian Wushuang was not far from where he stood before, and two dry corpses were standing across. Those two dead corpses are the three princes and the king of Zhennan. Ha! Suddenly, Yinpeng's master's complexion instantly lost his blood and became pale. An indescribable shock came from his eyes. Nearly 100 ultimate masters, as well as the ultimate masters of invincible levels, such as the king of Zhennan and the three princes, have all died in the hands of this person? Dominated by Yinpeng, he was completely trembling. He only found out that he was wrong from the beginning. It was ridiculous. Because of the preconceived notion, he never put Jian Wushuang in his eyes. In the beginning, why did Jian Wushuang break away from the battlefield? When the sword came west, he came here only when Jian Wushuang had good luck, and escaped the pursuit of God Jiawei and others. Even behind him, King Zhennan and the three princes were unparalleled against the enemy sword. For a long time, he had nothing to do with the sword, and he was only trapped by Jinwu and the three princes. He never thought that nearly 100 ultimate masters such as the god Jiawei, and even the two kings of the Zhennan and the three princes, would die in the hands of Jian Wushuang. This is too horrifying, too ridiculous. If it spreads, the whole universe will shake it. Therefore, it is not that he did not think about it, but that he did not dare to think about it at all. Since ancient times, he has never heard of which fourth-level master can kill two invincible ultimate masters. Even if it is the top extremes of the famous universe, including the owner of this Taro ruins, Taro Supreme, when the fourth level dominated the realm of the year, never had such a brilliant record. All this upset his perception. Evil. This is evil. Yinpeng dominated, and looked up at Jian Wushuang in horror. At this moment, his jealousy against Jian Wushuang even surpassed Zhou Jiawang. He believes that even the Nine Calamity King, who is now known as the Invincible Master, could not be compared with Jian Wushuang, when he was the fourth-level master. In the distance, the battle between the 9 Kings of Calamity and the 4 envoys has come to an end. If the 9 blood envoys are still there, they can still deal with the 9 Kings of Calamity for the time being. Now there are only 4 of them left, and where will they be the enemy of the 9 Kings of Calamity? In a short quarter of an hour, the 4 blood sacrifice fell one by one and could not escape. A group of disgusting guys. With the last palm of Zhou Jiawang, after taking a meshin to take a sickle with a sickle, he snorted and turned his head towards Yinpeng, looked at the direction of the escape. Jian Wushuang. When Zhou Jiawang saw Yinpeng dominated by Jian Wu's hands, his expression was wrong. How do you thank me? Jian Wushuang raised Yinpeng to dominate and shook at Zhou Jianwang, smiling slightly. Zhou Jiawang snorted softly, without a reply, but a smile appeared on his expressionless face. Jian Wushuang held Yinpeng to dominate, and walked step by step towards the King of 9 Calamities. Well, I gave him to you. Jian Wushuang reached out and gave the Lord Yinpeng to the King Zhilong. For a short time, the King Zhilong bowed his head to the Lord Yinpeng. A cold arc evoked in the corner of his mouth, teasing. Yinpeng, why don't you escape anymore? Yin Peng's master had no blood on his face. He knew that he could not escape today. For mercy, he can ask for mercy from anyone, but he can't beg mercy from King Jiulong. This is his final dignity. So he took a deep breath and said lightly, King Jiulong, this time died in your hands. Here I can only say that luck is bad. There is no good helper like you do it. King Jiujia has never been a dragger, shook his head with a sneer and shook his head, and then shot it on the head of Yin Peng. Boom boom. Suddenly, a large amount of divine power erupted, killing Yin Peng directly and turning it into powder. This battle, with the death of Yin Peng, finally came to an end. After a moment, the sky was restored to its calm and quiet again. The King of Nine Kings and Jian Wushuang fought side by side. The slightly blowing wind blew their black hair and white hair. Jian Wushuang, I owe you a favor this time. King Jiujia carried his hands on his back, his feet empty, and he said in a deep voice. Jian Wushuang smiled and did not answer. When the King of Nine Kings saw this, he no longer said anything. Only he knew it. How much this human feeling, he said. This means that no matter what life and death enemies Jian Wushuang faces in the future, Shang Jubi, the King of the Nine Dragons, will fall to Huang Quan, and he will do his best to stand behind Jian Wushuang. Even if he is against the entire universe, he will spare no expense. Grunt. Not long after, I saw Yi Qingfeng waiting to take the lead, with more than 10 ultimate dominators, hurried to come. Until this time they finally dominated Yin Peng, Jin Nanking, and the three princes, the ultimate masters of these three parties, all strangled clean. King Jiujia, Jian Wushuang, are you okay? Qingfeng stood still in front of Jian Wushuang and Jiujia Wang, asking with great concern. We look like something. Jian Wushuang quipped with a smile. Qingfeng Shenhou heard that he was completely relieved. Then his eyes lighted up, some were not sure, and some looked forward to asking. So, what is Yin Peng dominating? He is dead? Dead. King Jiujia nodded. When Qingfeng heard the words, his expression suddenly agitated, and he asked, So, what about the South King of the town? All are dead. King Jiujia continued. Qingfeng Shenhou heard the first shock, and then laughed loudly. Chapter 4192. The next day, in accordance with the previous promise, King Jupan divided up the treasures of Yin Peng and His Majesty's ultimate master to the gunner and other people. Immediately, the gunner and more than 10 ultimate masters were overjoyed and celebrated. It didn't take long for Jiujia Wang, Jian Wushuang, and Qingfeng to wait for the three, and they unanimously decided to leave the ruins of Tai Luo. For King Jiulong, it's the right way to go back and use the supreme divine medicine to break the supreme. For Jian Wushuang, the greatest opportunity of Taro's remains has been obtained by him, so there is no need to stay. Qingfeng Shenhou is optional or not. 3 days later, the three stepped out of the ruins of Tai Luo. Outside the ruins of Tai Luo, there is still a lively scene. Some restaurants, dongays, and trading markets are crowded with people. All major forces set up camps here, of which the Judi Pavilion is the most prominent. Under the intentionally hidden breath of Jian Wushuang, none of them recognized the three. Let's go. Just when King Jiujia planned to release the spacecraft to leave. Wait. Jian Wushuang shook his head, looked at Judi Pavilion and said, I have one more thing to deal with, wait for me. It is good. The king of Jiujia nodded, and Jian Wushuang's request naturally made him agree. Mixed with the flow of people, Jian Wushuang lowered his hood slightly and walked into the Judi Pavilion. Sir, what do you need to buy? We have all kinds of treasures that have just come out of the ruins, including various special elixir. Responsible for the reception is a beauty girl with a 5th grade. Although she saw Jian Wushuang only had the 4th grade as the master, she did not take it lightly. Before she finished speaking, she saw Jian Wushuang pull out a token with the word 9 emperors, and her face suddenly changed. The strongest on the list of 9 emperors? Yours please upstairs. The beauty of the beautiful girl immediately became respectful, and she quickly brought Jian Wushuang to the top floor of the Judi Pavilion and said congratulations. Sir, I have informed the supervisor, and he will come right away. Jian Wushuang sat on a futon and nodded. After a moment, A short fat old man hurried up to catch up. He first checked the token of the 9 emperors' tokens of Jian Wushuang, then carefully returned the token to Jian Wushuang, and said, "Mr. Bloodsword, may I have any help?" Jian Wushuang turned his hands from the ring of Qingquan, took out a broken purple gold crown, and said lightly, "Thank you for sending me something. Ah, this crown seems to be worn by the 3 princes who worship the kingdom of God?" The obese old man was shocked. As the supervisor of the Judy Pavilion of the Terra ruins, his eyesight was naturally good, and he recognized it at a glance. This broken purple gold crown was once worn by the 3 princes of the kingdom of God. How could this crown appear in the hands of this person? The obese old man was puzzled in his heart, but he dared not ask more, and replied, "Sir, where are you going? You can take this purple gold crown to the virtual wind star domain, the Shanyang astral realm, the hand of a water which dominated." Jian Wushuang said, "Is the virtual wind star field?" "Your Excellency, the virtual wind star field is located at the edge of the universe, very far away from here, if it is," the obese old man said with a little embarrassment. "Can't you send it over?" Jian Wushuang said lightly before he finished. "This." The obese old man hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath. "Sir, it can be delivered, but it will be extremely expensive, requiring 200,000 source rocks of the universe." After that, the obese old man bowed his head and stopped watching Jian Shuang. He didn't look down on Jian Wushuang's meaning, but it was a 200,000 cosmic source stone, which is an astronomical number for most ultimate masters. Jian Wushuang only dominated the 4th grade. He didn't think that Jian Wushuang could have what means has so many universe source stones. When will it start? Jian Wushuang took out a ring from the sky. The obese old man heard a word of it, and after taking up Qian Kun's ring to investigate, the next moment his body was shocked. "I can arrange it immediately," the obese old man linked. "Well, as soon as possible." Jian Wushuang nodded his head, then lowered his brim, and walked out of Judy Pavilion. For him, the current source of the universe is just a number. In the 2nd layer of the Tail ruins, the cosmic source stone he got was at least nearly 100 million, which does not include those magic drugs and materials. If they were added together and converted into the cosmic source stone, it would be an astronomical number. The 200,000 source rocks of the universe. Now Jian Wushuang has completely ignored. Hope they like this gift. Jian Wushuang's face hidden under the hood smiled. After a while, Jian Wushuang came to the 2 kings of Zhejian. "Is everything done?" Zhejiawang said. "Well." Jian Wushuang nodded. "Okay, let's go." With a big wave from King Zhejia's hand, a dark spacecraft appeared in front of the 3, and then rose in the wind, turning into a behemoth that struck the sky in the blink of an eye. King Jiuzai and Qingfeng looked at each other. The 3 swordsmen stepped on their feet, and immediately rose into the sky, and entered the spacecraft. Rumble! Immediately, the spacecraft roared, accelerated rapidly, and sprinted out. Within a few moments, the universe turned into a small black spot, and completely disappeared into this starry sky. Time passed slowly, and 300 years passed in a blink of an eye. One day, at the entrance of the Tail ruins, a banner super fleet with the word 2 virtual came across the starry sky, and suddenly entered the entrance of the Tail ruins, passing without any reason at all. Suddenly, at the entrance of the Tail ruins, a group of people turned over, and the ultimate master of countless street vendors hurried to avoid. However, hasn't waited for them to roar. As if they were holding their throats by an invisible big hand, they are all trembling. I saw a row of top ultimate dominators, rushing out of this fleet, standing under the huge cosmic boat with the 2 empty flag, standing respectfully. Immediately afterwards, I saw the largest cosmic boat, the hatch of which slowly opened, and a man wearing a white coat with the word 2 virtual, sewn with fine gold thread on the back was a white old man. Step by step at the door. The only difference between this old man's dress and that of the Qingshu god's son is that a golden wisteria flower is embroidered on his left chest. As soon as the old man got off the cosmic boat, an instant of powerful breath suddenly came to the audience, and the countless ultimate dominators present all covered the cold, only to feel the blood was frozen. Here, this is the 7th hall of the Taishi Temple. The deputy hall owner of the 7th hall by Fu Supreme. Suddenly among the crowd, the ultimate master changed his face and whispered. Chapter 4193. Second more. Extreme in person. This is the Supreme come. The presence of many ultimate dominators set off a stormy sea. By Fu Supreme expressionless, glanced at the ultimate domination, and said indifferently, "Find." All of a sudden, respectfully the lords of the Taishi Temple standing in front of him, should suddenly divide up a large part, and blast towards the ruins of Tailuo. A small part is left, towards the ultimate master nearby. Have you seen this man? The Taishi shrine dominated the indifferent expression, holding a large shovel in the palm of his hand, and kept asking the ultimate master, who was present coldly. The figure in the mirror is not someone else. It is a sword unparalleled. Never seen it. Do not know. The ultimate master at the scene shook his head. However, there were also people who saw the sword unparalleled, and immediately recognized it. Well, isn't this person a little guy who came with King Jilong 1,000 years ago? Yes, I also remember this person, and I was quite impressed, because at the time when they were here, I still mocked 2 sentences and said that this person is a 4th-level master, and is this Taro ruins are looking for death. Isn't this person already in the Taro ruins? As soon as these words came to an end, many of the top-level ultimate masters of the Taishi Temple were blindfolded. After a while the Taishi Temple, who had previously entered the ruins of Tailuo, was dominated by them, and rushed out of it, standing in front of Baifu. Master Uyghur, the figure is not found inside. Sir, I heard people say that King Jiucai has left the ruins of Tailuo, and the man who chased after His Highness the Son of God must have also left. Lord Baifu nodded faintly when he heard the words, looked at the people who had said that he had seen Jian Wushuang before, and said, "Take it away." Yes, suddenly, in a burst of exclamation, those who said they knew Jian Wushuang were forcibly taken away by the ultimate dominator of Taishi Temple. Not long after, the fleet of Taishi Temple from the starry sky slowly turned around and drove quickly in one direction. That direction points to the ground. It is the Palace of Life. It was not until the fleet of the Taishi Temple completely left that everyone was relieved. On the top floor of Judy Pavilion, the obese old man stood in front of the railing and looked at the departing fleet of Taishi Temple with a complex expression. Their news has always been well informed, naturally knowing that His Royal Highness the Taishi Temple, hunting down a 4th-level master in the Terra ruins. The result is unknown. The whereabouts of the Taishi Temple god is unknown. The broken crown of the 3 princes of the Kingdom of God. The 2 places are associated together, and the obese old man suddenly feels a little confused. This person is the Tianjiao on my 9 emperors list. If he is in trouble, no, this matter should be reported to that adult. The obese old man made a good decision and hurried down the stairs. In the vast universe, a dark spacecraft is flying fast. The Bone Starfish domain is in front. After the Bone Starfish shuttles the universe channel, we are close to the shrine. In the spacecraft cabin, King Jiujia, Jian Wushuang, and Qingfeng looking through the spacecraft's mystic mirror, looking at the universe and smiling slightly. It's been nearly 800 years since they left the Terra ruins, and they have constantly shuttled through the cosmic passage, and they are getting closer and closer to the Temple of Life. Speaking of this trip to the Terra ruins, all the troubles were caused by the gods of Chiba. If they had left the team without authorization at the beginning, when we were in Fengyang Gorge, our strength was drastically reduced, and we were chased and killed. Why is there all that? If they had worked together with us at the time, when we were in Fengyang Canyon, we could rely on our strength to take the supreme potion that was safe and sound. Qingfeng Shenhou said with emotion. King Jiujia and Jian Wushuang heard the words, smiled and did not speak. For Jian Wushuang, if there was no Qing Shizi chasing and killing at the beginning, I am afraid that he would not accidentally hit and enter the 2nd floor of the Terra ruins, so as to obtain the cosmic treasures, such as the Terra Magic Sword and the Terra Sword. King of the Ninth Calamity, if you talk about the harvest this time, among the three of us, you got the supreme divine medicine, but the biggest gain, after you go back, you have to give me a good return and sword unparalleled. Qingfeng Shenhou intentionally acid jokes. Ha ha ha, why was King Jiujia a mean person? Rest assured, I will definitely report when I return. Seeing that the Temple of Life was getting closer, King Jiujia was in a good mood, and joked with a rare smile. As he spoke, he tilted his head to the side, taking a meaningful look at Jian Wushuang. If he hadn't seen the battle between Jian Wushuang and the South King, and the three princes of the town, he really thought he was the biggest winner of the trip. But it was the battle that he saw, not showing the mountains Jian Wushuang. The absolute gain is greater than him. Just a magical power that resembles a mind of the kingdom of God has surpassed all the gains of his Taro ruins. However, with regard to these, he and Jian Wushuang were quite tacit and didn't talk about it. Even the details of the battle, when Qingfeng asked, they were vaguely obscured. The King of Nine Kings understands that everyone in this world has their own secrets. Since Jian Wushuang did not take the initiative to say, he would naturally not ask more. Anyway, for him, in fact, the supreme magic potion is the best opportunity for him. As for what chance of Jian Wushuang got, what does it have to do with him? The three chat from time to time, sometimes with their eyes closed, and time flies fast. In the blink of an eye, nearly 100 years have passed, and the surrounding universe is finally bustling and lively. From time to time, you can see various spacecraft passing by. The Palace of Life is finally here. Jian Wushuang slowly opened her eyes. Their current position can already see the farthest place through the space of the cosmic boat, which belongs to the kingdom of God controlled by the Palace of Life. I haven't seen you in such a long time, and I don't know how Shuanger is now. Thinking of the flower like frost, Jian Wushuang couldn't help but smile slightly and said to himself silently. After returning to the Temple of Life, the next step is for me to break through the 5th level master. Jian Wushuang thought again, thinking again. Today, in fact, his realm has become unimportant. Whether it is the strength of his divine power, or the understanding of the laws of the universe, he has reached the level of dominating the realm, the highest level. Breaking through the 5th level will not be too difficult for Jian Wushuang in front of him. It is nothing more than integrating the 8th rule. Although the rules become more difficult to merge, Jian Wushuang has absolute confidence in himself. Chapter 4194. The first is more. The reason why Jian Wushuang wanted to go back to break through the 5th rank is because once he breaks through the 5th rank, not only does his divine power increase again, but more importantly, maybe he can use Tai Luo at that time. 1/1,000,000th power of the Excalibur. At that time, even in the face of the King of Nine Calamities, a level higher than his dominion, he is confident that he will truly let go of the battle. Well, if there is a breakthrough at that time, maybe we have to use the power of Wu Daohe. Jian Wu's eyes kept thinking of the Han spirit who realized Hanoi, and his face was a bit irresistible. Presumably Lord Helling, when I see myself again, my expression will be wonderful, right? At this moment, the three kings of Jiujia, Jian Wushuang, and Qingfeng Shenhou did not speak, and each of them was somewhat eager to return home. Rumble. The time of Yijiazi passed, and the three swordsmen Wuxian finally reached the front of the cosmic passage, leading to the Temple of Life. Who's coming? The two masters in charge of the door, seeing the approaching spacecraft, were suddenly tense and sang loudly. It's me. King Nine Calm replied lightly. Immediately, the three men descended from the spacecraft. See King Nine Calamities. Seeing this, the two goalkeepers suddenly felt relieved, and then arched their hands and said, Master Nine Calamities, Supreme Bloodwave, Great Axe Supreme, and Supreme Gav have received your summons. We are waiting here. As soon as you arrive, let me take you to the Supreme Hall. Oh, so urgent? King Jiujia, Jian Wushuang, and Qingfeng Shenhou heard the words and couldn't help but glance at each other, and they were a little confused about each other. Theoretically, Even if they were asked to report the situation of the ruins, it would not be so urgent. Did something happen? Zhu Jiawang frowned. The two gatekeepers heard the words, hesitated in their eyes, and finally said softly, Master Huizhou Zhu Jiawang, 100 years ago, a distinguished guest came to your door and is waiting for you in the Supreme Temple. What noble guest? A look of dissatisfaction arose on King Nine Calamity's face, and he asked again. The two masters took a deep breath and heard the words returning solemnly. It's the person who is too vain temple. Too much shrine. Suddenly, the faces of King Jiujia and Qingfeng looked slightly changed, and they looked at Xiang Jianwushuang in unison. Jian Wushuang heard his face expressionless and asked lightly, Is this for me? The two masters heard the words and nodded bitterly with a smile, and said, Yes. Then go and see them, what is going on? Jian Wushuang sneered in his heart. He had long anticipated that people from the temple that was too virtual would come to him. Unexpectedly, this person who is too virtual temple not only came to him, but also came directly to the Temple of Life. However, Jian Wushuang didn't panic in his heart. This is the Temple of Life. Forgive those who are too virtual temple, and dare not do anything extraordinary. 3 adults. Let's take a message now and take you to the Supreme Temple? The two masters asked. The 3 kings of Jiujia nodded and nodded, showing a firm smile towards Jian Wushuang, as if to say, Rest assured that everything is with us. A moment later, the 3 men came to the Supreme Temple under the leadership of the 2 masters. Inside the Supreme Temple, Gaver Supreme sits in the first place, Bloodwave Supreme and Giant Axe Supreme are on both sides. Under the 3 of them, an old man wearing too much hair and white hair, sitting cross-legged, holding a teacup and drinking tea lightly. This person is impressively the Taishu Temple, the 7th Temple, and the Vice Hall Lord Baifu Supreme. Speaking of which, the old man came to the Temple of Life and thanked 3 Taoists for their hospitality. Baifu Supreme put down his teacup and smiled slightly. Baifu, this tea is finished, shouldn't you go? Shuebo Supreme's face was not very good-looking. No hurry, the old man and others haven't arrived yet, said Supreme Master Baifu, shaking his head and shaking his head. After a pause, Baifu Supreme continued to say, Relax, after your husband investigates the matter clearly, you will naturally leave and never stay more. This life temple, how can we be 2 virtual temple? You, Bloodwave Supreme heard an angry voice. Where is this Baifu Supreme when their life shrine? Come whenever you want. Wanna go? He was about to have an attack, and when he saw Supreme Gap sitting in the first place he said lightly, Bloodwaves, the visitor is a guest, it must not be rude. The great axe beside him shook his head slightly towards him. The blood wave was supremely visible, and there was a sudden cloudiness on his face, and finally he grunted coldly and stopped talking. Seeing this, Baifu Supreme, the corners of his mouth could not help but evoke slightly a look of perseverance. Although his strength is far inferior to Bloodwave Supreme, but this time he came to represent the Temple of Taishu. He believes that Bloodwave Supreme is afraid to take him. Flip-flop. At this moment, there was a rush of footsteps outside the door, and then, a master who was responsible for guarding the temple hurriedly came in arching. Oblique Gav, Supreme Blood, Supreme Axe, Jujia, the 3 kings have returned and are waiting for the announcement outside the temple. As soon as this voice fell, the Bloodwave Supreme and the Giant Axe Supreme shrank their pupils, and the white floating Supreme stood up with a smile on his face. Ha ha ha, the old man waited for 100 years and finally came. Let them come in. Supreme Gav nodded blandly. Yes, the master retreated. It didn't take long for Jian Wushuang to see the 3 of them, walking slowly from outside the hall. King Jiujia stood in the middle, Jian Wushuang and Qingfeng stood on both sides, and all 3 looked expressionless. Extreme Gav, Extreme Bloodwave, Extreme Axe. The 3 arched slightly. Well, King Nine Calamities, Qingfeng, you sit down first. Gafa Supreme nodded. Then he looked at Jian Wushuang and said lightly, Sword Wushuang, this is the deputy main hall of the 7th temple of the Taishu Temple Baifu Supreme. This time I called you over because this Baifu Supreme had something to ask. Later Baifu Supreme asked you, You must not have any concealment. Do you understand? Understand. Jian Wushuang nodded his head and immediately looked to Bai Fu Supreme Archaic Archery. Sword Wushuang, saw Bai Fu Supreme. You are Jian Wushuang? The old man asked you. In the ruins of Tailuo, did you have a conflict with the Qingxiu of our Taishu temple? Bai Fu Supreme narrowed his eyes, and he was also welcome. Open the door directly to the mountain road. That's right. Jian Wushuang nodded calmly. The matter between him and Qing Shuzi is not secret. At the beginning, many people saw the scene of Qing Shuzi pursuing and killing him in the ruins of Tailuo. Therefore, he did not intend to deny it. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.